Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Dream Big Today. This is Monday, November 24th, and like we're a month away from Christmas. Are you getting ready for that? My daughter came out to my house this weekend and we put up my Christmas trees, we put up decorations, and we are set for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. And to top that off, I have my little grandson here with me that is getting to help and enjoy all of that stuff. He's 8, and so we've been playing games and reading books and all of that kind of stuff. So I've kind of had a busy week, and I have another busy week of the same blessing. And so today we are finishing up Ezekiel. I hope you've enjoyed the this book and that you've got some great insight from it in what Ezekiel saw and how he uh, discussed it, how he related it to everyone in the Bible, or of the in the Bible for us. There we go. Trying to say that right. And so I got excited as I read that, and um, because I've got another book to relate it to, and so like I said, I'm excited about that. If you would put your prayer request and your praise reports in the chat box, and so we can uh, join you in your prayers, your concerns, your things that's going on in your life. We can celebrate with you and rejoice with you when God answers them, miracles happen, and He's the same God of yesterday that He is today and will be in the future, and that is so cool. And so now let's jump on into Ezekiel 47 and 48. And it says, man, I don't even know which one to read it out of. In my vision, the man brought me, Ezekiel, back to the entrance of the temple. Now, so we've gone back. He's done some things. Now we've gone back. There, I saw a stream flowing east from beneath the floor of the temple and passing to the right of the altar on its south side. So in my other Bible, I want to read a little footnote, which makes this actually easier. But we need to read it on our own and see what the Holy Spirit is revealing to us as we read it. But I'm going to read this part to you. It says the tour continues by bringing Ezekiel back into the inner court. Uh, these or there begins one of the most striking scenarios in the entire vision. A trickle of water miraculously issues from the south side of the threshold of the sanctuary and makes its way south to the altar. Out the east gate of the outer court, then out the main east gate. The trickle becomes a powerful river as Ezekiel and his guide wade into the stream. The guide measures as they go. Sitting at the riverbank, the guide explains life-giving properties of the river. This aspect of the vision coheres with chapter 34, 25 through 20 or 31 in affirming that renewal is not just moral and does not just come to people, but affects the entire natural world here. Now, I want to go back to chapter 43 real quick and just read uh, the first two verses there. This is when the glory of the Lord fills the temple. He led me to the gate facing east, and behold, the glory of the God of Israel was coming from the east, and the sound of his coming was like the sound of many uh, waters. So, like the sound of many waters. Just one second. Oh, goodness sake. Uh, Well, good land. I'm trying to multitask right now. There we go. Hopefully that worked. Okay, so, and what I was excited about is talking about the waters. And in in John 7:38, Jesus said, "Whoever believes in me, as the scripture has said, streams of living water will flow from within him." Streams of living water. We see streams of living water all throughout the Bible. And so now then, he's the this person that they are talking about is probably an angel of God, but this is his guide, and he went into and through the waters. And he's measuring as they went. And funny thing, it's all basically the same distance. He goes for 1,750 feet, led me across. The water was up to my ankles. He measured off another 1,750 and led me across again. This time the water was up to my knees. After another 1,750 feet, it was up to my waist. Then he measured another 1,750 feet, and the river was too deep to walk across. And so, remember, it started out as a trickle and then changed from there. Let me find my notes. And then it was deep enough to swim in. Oh, hold on just a second. Okay. So the spiritual analogy of this, it's a powerful picture of increasing progress in our spiritual life. And so the progression from wading to diving in and swimming is a call to go deeper. And so, see, he starts and the water's up to his ankles, then it's up to his knees. And would you have stopped at that point? Would you have stopped maybe when you thought, oh, I don't want to get my feet wet, and not even went there? But going on in, sometimes we've got to dig in. Most of the times we have to dig in. I've never been to a point that I was able just to scoot across anything that was difficult and just be done with it. He asked me, "Have you been watching, Son of Man?" Then he led me back along the riverbank. When I returned, I was surprised by the sight of many trees growing on both sides of the river. So, in other words, get in, jump in. So this water from the temple is going to the Dead Sea, heading east. Now, Dead Sea is like 50 miles long, and at its widest point, 11 miles wide. The surface is 1,300 feet below sea level, and it's estimated to be 1,300 feet deep. It's like a miraculous body of water. But so here's the literal part about that. How does living water go to the dead water? Something's got to happen, some process that we're not even seeing, and we won't see because we're not in heaven. Something happens beyond what this text is indicating. A simple infusion of fresh water will not revive the Dead Sea, which already receives fresh water. The fish can't even go swim to go there because they'll die once they swim in that concentration of the minerals and salts that's in it. The water has no outlet. So, in favor of more symbolic interpretation, Jesus may have been alluding to what I said earlier, John 7:38. Whoever believes in me, as the scripture said, streams of living water will flow from within him. This spiritual water represents divine sustenance. That's something beyond what you can do. Spiritual renewal, something that you need him to help you with, and the transformative power of God that you can't do on your own. As I was reading and studying this, here comes my excitement. I got down to verse 12. It says, fruit trees of all kinds will grow along both sides of the river. The leaves of these trees will never turn brown and fall. There will always be fruit on their branches. There will be a new crop every month. It's like you've joined the Fruit of the Month Club. For they are watered by the river flowing from the trickle. Remember that trickle, flowing from the temple, that trickle of water that grew, that fresh living water that flowed through there out the east gate and on until it reached the Dead Sea, is living, and things are growing all around it. It said up above, it said, the waters of this stream will make the salty waters of the Dead Sea fresh and pure. How does that happen? We don't know. It's nothing that could take place for us short of God saying, okay, so I'm going to show everybody how this miracle works. But then the last part of verse 12, the fruit will be for food and the leaves for healing. So do you believe that you can use this statement as being something that you can change your health, your diet with? I was reading a book, and it's so good, about going by the Bible on your nutrition and your exercise and your spiritual learning the spiritual ways. And it says, the man that wrote it said, I immersed myself in this passage and how trees represented the Bible, or trees are represented in the Bible. Let me get my words straight. At the start, I read Ezekiel 47:12 in every translation of the Bible. Now, let me talk about that. We get used to reading our favorite version of the Bible. We get used to reading our favorite, any kind of book, because we know it, and we can read through it and assume that we absorb what we've been reading. But you know what? Things that's familiar don't generally pop so much as what they used to. Even though the Bible is living, what if you got a different translation to include in your study that would make your brain stop and think, what does that mean? What? Oh, here's a different word in place of the one that was used before. A different translation is a good thing. It's just like stretching your muscle. So the writer of this book used every translation in the Bible to look at Ezekiel 47:12. And they all revealed the same message. The leaves of fruit trees are for healing, for medicine, or curing disease. When God created trees on the third day, they were not just lifeless objects, they were given a purpose. Don't you know that God's given a purpose to everything? Trees are full of life. And as we read down through this part, this is talking about how he is changing everything. These the borders, the let's see, the borders of land on every side, the power of the river. Then we go into the command to divide the land, and along with the tribes, if you've got a study Bible, you're going to see a map of all of the 12 tribes, and how the holy city is right in the middle of it, and there's that little Dead Sea, and there's where all of that water is running from the temple to the Dead Sea. This is an amazing chapter, the last 2 chapters to read, and then just think about it, ponder about it, meditate. All of the leaves are for healing. What if we took that literal, like we should, and made tea out of the leaves? What would that do? I mean, this is just something, this is your assignment for you to research and study that. In Joel 3:18 it says, "In that day the mountains will drip new wine and the hills will flow with milk. All ravines of Judah will run with water. A fountain will flow out of the Lord's house and will water the valley of acacias." So this picture of the restored land is one of perfect and beauty, similar to the Garden of Eden. Everything about the Garden of Eden was perfect, and there was no sickness and disease. But you know what? Sin creeped in on its belly, didn't it? So this life-giving fountain flows from the Lord's house, illustrates the blessings that come from God. Those who attach themselves to him will be forever fruitful. And then we see Revelation 22:1, "And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding from the throne of God and the Lamb." So the river is flowing into the dead places. This says Dead Sea, but we're going to call it dead places right now, into the lowest level. Water doesn't skip a crease or crevice, it fills that in. The dry places, if you live in a dry place too long, you will experience a drought. Oh, what about a drought in your marriage? What about a drought in your family, your career, school? You'll be sad. You'll be lonely, depressed. You will look for something to fill that dry riverbed. So as you read all of this today, I want you to think about that living river, that water that just flows in an amazing manner. That how does a trickling stream become a roaring river of life? And it's just like his voice, God's voice roars like many waters. It's all about the life. And then at the end of chapter 48, he's talking about the city. And after he continues on, the land is divided up, and we've got all kinds of instructions and dimensions and everything about it. He tells in verse 35, "And from that day the name of the city will be, the Lord is there." If you see that little asterisk there beside that, it is Yahweh Shalom. Shalom. The Hebrew pronunciation of Jerusalem is Yerushalayim, which some say is a word play on Yahweh Shema. Jerusalem means the Lord is there. Boy, I probably really butchered that up. But the important thing about this land is not the river or the border, but the glorious presence of God. The Lord had departed from Jerusalem because of the sin of the people, but he will return to dwell with them and bless them. 2 Peter 2:11 through 3:7. This is a super good one too. This is one that I probably need to read over and over and over every day. It's talking about your actions. Abstain from fleshly lusts, proper submission to government, submission to your employers, and the example of Jesus. Dear friends, I warn you as temporary residents and foreigners to keep away from worldly desires that wage war against your very soul. Be careful to live properly among your unbelieving neighbors. Why? He says, then if they accuse you of doing wrong, they will see your honorable behavior and they will give honor to God when he judges the world. People watch what you do and how you react to difficult situations. Do you just explode when things don't go your way, or do you take a deep breath and give it to God? See, sometimes if we're normally, have a quick temper, people see us and say, well, what kind of a Christian is that? They explode at anything. They stub their toe and they blow up. Somebody gets their parking place and they roll their window down to yell at them. And all the time they've got a I love Jesus bumper sticker on their car. Pay attention to how you're acting because somebody else is. There was one thing I'd heard somebody say, that what if you wore a voice recorder for the next full week and then you replayed that back to yourself to hear what you said to people throughout that whole time? What if you expanded it to a month and just listened to yourself? Now people will say, oh, I don't like to even hear my voice because it sounds funny. Well, of course, we only hear our voice through our internal self. My voice sounds different to me when I'm rewatching my recordings to see what I can improve on, but I don't like either to hear my voice. But I need to be listening to what I'm saying because somebody else is always doing that. 15 says, it's God's will that your honorable life should silence those ignorant people who make foolish accusations against you. Let your actions speak louder than your words. You know what? Sometimes if I try to defend myself, rather than just letting God take care of it, I'm going to say something I shouldn't have said. I'm really going to want to try to get the best of the situation. And I used to be really good at it. I've really pared down from the days of old. But you know what? He's saying to not say anything. Give it to God. It says in verse 17, respect everyone and love the family of believers. Fear God and respect the living. You who are slaves must submit to your masters with all respect. And then 19, for God is pleased when, conscious of his will, you patiently endure unjust treatment. Oh, I bet that's a tough one. Because really we want to defend ourselves. We want you to know what we meant to do, not what we did. And so many times we're judged on that. We judge other people on what they did, but we know if we did the same thing, we really didn't mean it. It didn't work out like we thought. We can justify ourselves. But then we get down to, at the end of 20, but if you suffer for doing good and endure it patiently, God is pleased with you. Quit trying to defend yourself. Maybe just stop and pray. Oh, that's a thought. Maybe if you would have been proactive in your morning Bible studies, let me get my little note here, you would have already pre-decided what you were going to do. The most important decision that you will make today is the pre-decision not to speak harshly. The pre-decision. I heard a pastor say that, and I thought, oh my goodness, the most important decision I'll make is a pre-decision. And I like that. I'm going to stand on that. But look what Jesus did. He never sinned. Well, we're not Jesus. I get that. He never deceived anyone. He did not retaliate when he was insulted, nor threaten revenge when he suffered. Oh man, I've heard people threaten revenge because they want somebody to pay for how they were wronged. They have to see that in their lifetime. This isn't what this says. He left his case in the hands of God, who always judges fairly. Let God take care of it. Don't even put your finger in that pot to try to stir it up, because you're going to make it worse. Jesus left his case in the hand of God. He personally carries our sins in his body on the cross so that we can be dead to sin and live for what is right. Are you living for what is right? You know, we've read this Bible, if you've been with us for 11 months, one more time, one more year. 2025 is almost over, and we've read it again. What have you learned? Have you been able to pick up something that's going to help you in your conversations and your relationships with people for the rest of the year and for the rest of your life? Look what Jesus did. Look what, by his wounds you are healed. When I talk about the healing leaves, that's, he created everything for our benefit. Yet, we'll break them up and throw them in a pile and burn them, or sack them up and let the trash truck pick them up. We'll read, by his wounds you are healed, and then we're going to be fretting about something that's going on in our physical body, and we don't even pray to him first. He says that we're healed. And that also comes from Isaiah 53:5. That is a reference of that. Then he says in 25, once you were like sheep who wandered away, but now you have turned to your shepherd, the guardian of your souls. See, he's wanting to lead us every moment of the day. Even when we go to bed, just say your nightly prayers, say your morning prayers, say your noon prayers, pray all the time. Pre-decide that you're going to give it to God before you give it to anybody else. That is a game changer. That makes a world of difference. And then in chapter 3, this goes into the marriage part. In the same way, wives, accept the authority of your husbands. Then even if some refuse to obey the good news, your godly lives will speak to them without any words. Let your actions speak louder than your words do. They will be won over by observing your pure and reverent lives. Have you seen couples quarrel? Have you seen them just not be respectful for each other? Do you speak against your husband or be critical of him in public? Husbands, do you speak critical of your wife in public? Do you make fun of her, or do you cherish her? Do you treat her like that diamond that you saw her as whenever you first met her? See, we've got to be respectful, most of all, to that covenant relationship where we came together. We shouldn't be worried about everything else around us. We need to go to God and honor him. Let's honor our spouse, our marriage that's between a man and a woman. Honor that. And that is how they see the beauty in the wife. The beauty in the husband is because their hearts are loving. Their words are sweet. Their actions are kind. Their giving is generous. Treat your 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 family members as you are going to be gathering with them this week, and maybe have already. Sit down with them and just share what your nuggets that you got from the word today, because this is perfect for this week. Love each other, love Jesus, and take your worries, your joys, your praises to him. Thank you so much for joining us, and come back at noon. And we are going to be jumping into Psalms 119,